Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto anime review. This one's going to be for episode 113, which is called The Qualities of a Captain. And this was a fairly straightforward episode. I think it was fine without really doing anything particularly impressive. There were some kind of bits that were just there's not much to this episode, but in general it didn't do anything too wrong. I actually like some of these times where it is just an interesting group of characters go on a mission. The mission itself isn't overly important, there's not really too much going on, but it's nice to see just kind of day-to-day activity of today's the day for Shikadai to have a mission, to be captain for the first time, and here are the characters he's teamed up with. So we get Wasabi, Iwabe, and of course Boruto. So that's his team. And what I was interested in, we knew this from the preview that this was the team, was what role Boruto would play in this. Would he be the main one, kind of being not listening to Shikadai's orders and him being the one to go off on his own? They actually went the exact opposite way. Of Boruto was actually the one who least frustrated Shikadai and was actually the sort of support throughout most of the episode, and it was actually Wasabi and Iwabe arguing together, arguing with each other over, who should attack first, who should be the lead, because effectively they are both the lead fighters, effectively, of both of their teams. So Shikadai had to deal with the fact that he had, effectively two people taking a very similar position on the team, and they were always arguing with each other about making this decision or that decision, and eventually it leads to a lot of frustration on Shikadai's part, because it should be a simple mission, because these bandits pose very little threat. The terrain doesn't seem to be that difficult. It is just get up this mountain, find this rare flower that only blooms every so often, bring it back, and also keep this pig, which is the sort of sniffer pig they have called a Tonsuke, safe throughout the episode. So the only frustrations came from the pig running away and it having a mind of its own, of course. And then the bandits had one trap that actually did injure Shikadai a little bit. But in general, the fighting of this episode wasn't a threat. There was no real danger of anyone getting really, really badly hurt. So that meant the action of the episode wasn't particularly impressive, and given that there really wasn't much action, it was okay, here's Iwabe using some earth-style jutsu to make a bridge, and then a little kind of cocoon thing to put the pig in. Here's Wasabi using her kind of special cat powers to kind of sense stuff. Boruto uses shadow clones once, and of course Shikadai uses shadow possession. Very just by the numbers. They didn't really even do all that much with, by the episode, do Iwabe and Wasabi have a better friendship? They understand each other better? Not really. They both just sort of come together because they realize that Shikadai gets injured. They realize that he's kind of taking it all on himself. And it coming after the moment of him basically being getting frustrated and kind of losing sight of himself as a team leader, and just being you two just stay behind. It'll be easier if I just do this on my own. And he doesn't, Boruto hasn't done anything wrong, so Boruto just kind of goes along with him to just, keep an eye on him. And in that sense, I really like that role of Boruto playing the support, because we know from the main character dynamics, he doesn't want to be Hokage. He's perfectly fine with supporting Sarada to be Hokage. And this sort of fits as well, that it makes sense. Boruto wouldn't really have that much of a problem with taking orders from anyone else, because he himself doesn't necessarily want to take a leadership position. His personality would maybe think that would be the case, but like a Naruto, the only frustration for Boruto would come in if someone he didn't like was the leader and was asking him to do all that sort of stuff. But that's not the case here. So he supports Shikadai throughout all this and is fairly solid throughout the episode. Again, there was, I think, a little bit of a frustration with the sort of why is crossing that little gap, it wasn't even that big, such a problem for these ninja? I get that they had the whole Shikadai gets injured, so they couldn't do anything overly aggressive with crossing the bridge, but there could have been, I think, some more clever ways to do it, in terms of the clones tossing them across the gap or something like that. Like maybe they just didn't get across in the episode visually just how big the gap was. But it made Iwabe seem pretty impressive with how, he was able to just create an earth bridge like that, no problem. But yeah, like I said, there wasn't a lot going on here in terms of good fight choreography. Character-wise, the only real thing here was just Shikadai learning that, it's not going to be a walk in the park to be a captain. He has to learn how to manage members of his team, communicate better with people, and I suppose organize things better beforehand. He could come up with the best plans as possible, but if he doesn't relay that to the team all that well, you see where the problems come in. But yeah, it just a solid random mission episode. Really not much else to say beyond that. They're the type of episodes I think I'd like to see maybe a little more every so often, of just, as other characters get promoted to tuning, just here's these 4 characters on a mission doing something like this, because I got some enjoyment at the very least out of those sort of episodes at the end of Naruto Part 1, of like seeing, say, like Naruto on Hinata's team for a little bit and that sort of thing. But next week's episode, it seems like they're at least building towards the manga content with what seems to be the introduction of the card game here in the next episode. I don't think it's directly adapting any of the content, but I think it's setting up some of that stuff, because the card game ends up being a little bit of a focus at the very first arc back when the manga does come back. So that's at least somewhat interesting. But yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to say in this episode. Unfortunately, it wasn't the greatest episode, but I also don't think it was that horrible or anything like that. It was just a kind of average, middle of the road episode, and I think it's perfectly fine while we're not currently dealing with the big manga content. But I think they could have done a little bit more with this episode than what they did. Like we got to see Moegi for a little bit, and that's always fun. But would have liked to seen a little bit more. Like maybe he comes back and has a conversation with Shikamaru about being a leader, and he learns something by the end of it. But they did the episode the way they did it. It was fine. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on the episode. But that's been the review. Thanks for watching, and bye.